Hello, it's Sadie. I wanted to come on and do another spiritual talk. This one is going to be spiritual bypassing. So thank you, AAPP, for the suggestion. This has been on my list of spiritual talks that I need to do. And because it's come up this week, not just through you, but in another form this week for me, I knew it was time to do this spiritual talk. So what is spiritual bypassing? Basically, spiritual bypassing is using your spirituality to kind of not deal with life's issues, not deal with life's problems, and to really kind of have what I like to call be in positive denial. It's a state of positive denial, all right? I've also heard it called toxic spirituality. Some of the examples of spiritual bypassing are there is only light. All right. To me, this statement is a huge spiritual bypass. Yes. As you grow spiritually, you want to come into more love and come into more light. You want to come into more balance and harmony within yourself and understanding that you are spirit incarnate. You are not your mind, you are not your emotions. You have emotions, you have an ego, you have a mind, but your highest truth is that you are spirit incarnate, all right? And at the highest spiritual level, yes, everything is one. However, we have been fractaled down and we live in the density of 3D. And in this realm, we have to exist within the laws of the realm. Those laws are gravity. One is a law of gravity. Like, yes, our light bodies, our spirit bodies can fly and can astral travel and can do all these amazing things. But the physical body is dense. And so if you were to jump off a building, you're going to fall. You might even die. Most people would die. Or you're going to get seriously, badly injured and hurt, all right? So that is a physical law that we have to deal with. To me, duality is also a physical law that we have to deal with. Because we have experiences of hot and cold. There are extremes. There are polarities. You have, right now, it's daytime. But as the earth shifts and turns, there's going to be the nighttime, and so the night sky, and the sun won't be bright in the sky. We have these duality and these polarities so that we can understand the difference of the different energies, all right? And so to make a statement like there is only light in the world, when we live in a world where people get trafficked and people get murdered and people have horrific things to them, to me, that is an enormous spiritual bypass, all right? There is not just light. We live and we exist in this earth realm where there is both. And so that's an example of spiritual bypassing. Another example of spiritual bypassing is, this is a story by Brené Brown. I was watching one of her TED Talks. This was years ago. I love Brené Brown. She's a writer. Just really, really has a lot of wisdom. And she was telling this story of when she was a teenager. There was like a neighborhood kid in her town that unexpectedly died in a bad accident. It wasn't a car accident. I think he fell and like hit his head and ended up dying. And, you know, the whole town was shocked and saddened. The family was devastated, obviously. And so there was like the funeral where everybody went, including her family, to show support. And at the funeral, the minister who was giving the sermon was basically telling everybody not to feel bad because this kid's tragic death was a part of God's plan. And so they should celebrate his life and they shouldn't cry. And she went home afterwards, after the funeral, and asked her mother, was like, you know, is what he said right? Like, should I not be feeling the way that I'm feeling right now? Should I not be feeling bad? And her mother said, listen, that minister didn't know what he was talking about. It is okay to feel grief when something terrible happens. It is okay to be sad. It is perfectly appropriate and normal to cry under these circumstances. And she looked at Brene and she said, God is crying today too. So I always love that story. It tears me up because I think that too. Even though there is a higher plan to everything, but there are tragedies in this world, and there are things that we all have to experience. And so for that minister, even though in his way he was trying to help everyone cope with something that is horrible and tragic and, seemingly so unfair to deal with, like the tragic, unexpected death of like a young child, to tell people to not feel their feelings, to not feel bad about it. That is a huge spiritual bypass. And so these are ways that people can use spirituality to kind of avoid feeling feelings, avoid conflict, avoid dealing with the really tough, heavy stuff that we actually came to deal with and sort of understand and learn and grow from in life. So, how to tell if you are spiritually bypassing, all right? This was one of the ones that I really struggled with early on in my journey, because after the law of attraction and, thoughts become things and you've got to stay positive. And I naturally have a positive disposition, but I would get really, really down on myself for having a negative thought, like for thinking negative thoughts or for getting upset at someone or for getting pissed off about something. And I almost would be like in this state of like, oh my gosh, if I have a negative thought, like bad things are going to happen. And so that's a big sign of spiritual bypassing, is if you feel like you have to force yourself to be positive all the time. What cured me of that actually was I was watching, I think it was like Real Time with Bill Maher. This was years ago when I used to watch TV and I was into politics and all that stuff. I don't care now. I could care less now. But Deepak Chopra was on his show and he was talking to him about different things. And the topic of like positivity and law of attraction came up, and Deepak Chopra was like, it is impossible to be positive all the time. Like it is impossible. Like no human being, no matter the most enlightened human being in the world, because we have a mind, because we have emotions, there's no possible way that you're going to always have a positive thought, a positive emotion. It's just virtually impossible to do. And so, watching his explanation of that was like a huge sigh of relief for me, because it was like, yeah, like there's no, it's okay to like get pissed off when someone cuts you off in traffic, or if, people are mean to you. Like those are normal reactions. Okay. So if you feel like you're really trying to not be honest with your feelings or not feel your feelings, that's a huge sign of spiritual bypass. And why it's bad, or why it can be harmful spiritually to you, is because part of tapping into your intuition and really opening up is becoming more sensitive to your environment, which means more sensitive to your feelings, more in tune, more aware. And so if you're trying to do any sort of avoidance behavior where it's like you don't want to feel the uncomfortable feelings that you have, and so like you're using ways to escape, or you're using ways to avoid conflict, or ways to avoid speaking your truth because you think that's more spiritual, it's actually blocking the flow of your natural guidance and intuitive gifts. Okay, So this goes into the second way you can tell if you are spiritually bypassing. When you actually feel angry at someone, have resentment, have those emotions and stuff like that, and inside your head, you're really, really pissed off, but on the outside, you're running around faking it. You're like, oh, it's a great day, and when you want to curse everybody out. Like, that is a huge sign of spiritual bypass, okay? So, again, I'm not saying you should curse everybody out, but this goes back to the spiritual talk I did on cleansing. One of the most important things for cleansing spiritually, cleansing energy, is cleansing your emotions. So if you get upset, like if you're in a work environment and you've got crappy coworkers that always like trigger you and get on your nerves, like a good way to deal with that, instead of faking it because you think that you have to like fake it, because if you actually say what you wanted to say, like you'd get fired. I'm not saying you should do that, but a good way to cleanse that energetic reaction is to write out everything you're feeling and why. Journaling, writing, you know, it's a way of release. It's a way of purging the emotions so that you're not holding on to it. Because when you hold on to resentment, this is a Buddhist saying, and I don't know if the Buddha actually said it, so I'm just gonna say it's a Buddhist saying, but resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. And so why this is a huge spiritual bypass, if you're pissed off or angry at someone or, you know, stressed out about something, but again, just run around, I'm faking it till I make it, like stop faking it, all right? Part of why this is harmful for you spiritually, number one, is because part of spirituality, like really getting in tune with spirituality, is truth. Truth is like a huge component of your spiritual growth. You've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to take that honesty and that truth and be honest to others. Obviously, again, there are certain environments where you cannot tell someone exactly what you think of them or exactly what you wish you could tell them. But you need to be honest with yourself about it, and to be aware of when those emotions and when those heavy feelings come up and not try to fake the funk, all right? Because when you are inauthentic, that creates huge disjoint and misalignment just because it's a distorted energy. So that's why it's important, if you have situations like that, to write out why you're upset, to write out why you're angry. You can even, you know, my mom gave me this practice and it actually really helped. This was years ago when I was in a job and I was miserable. And my mom was like, write to their angels, like write to their guides. And I did. I started doing it for this one woman who just, me and her never got along, and she became increasingly challenging to deal with. But when I started writing every day when I was upset with her to her angels, it actually did shift the energy enough to, you know, while I stayed there, it made the situation much better for me until I left and found another job. So really, really important, okay? If you are trying to avoid feeling your feelings, that's a huge spiritual bypass, and it's actually very, very detrimental to you in the long run. Another spiritual bypass is a term called transference. So in psychology, transference means you've got a lot of like old emotional baggage about something or someone. It could be from childhood, it could be from a lover or a partner who hurt you. And instead of like actually expressing to that person how you felt hurt by them or how their actions have impacted you, you project and finger point at someone else. It's like you pick someone to sort of blame or sort of project and sort of spew all your emotional baggage on. That is a huge sign of spiritual bypassing. All right. And how this is related to spiritual bypassing, because I know some of you are like, how is that related? Because spiritually, I'll give you an example. Again, going back, there is light and there is dark, right? But if you are saying I'm light and this person that I'm dealing with, they're dark, they're evil, they're trigger me because they're dark, they're triggering me because they're evil, they're triggering me because, you know, they're the devil, whatever. And they literally may be the devil, like literally they could actually be the devil. But if you're pointing at them, you're literally pointing 3 fingers back to yourself. But also, it's not about them. They're the external sort of mirror back to you of that inner conflict or that inner whatever, that inner trauma, whatever it is that you are still dealing with that needs to be healed. It's showing up in your environment by that external person or that external situation. And so I see this a lot in spiritual communities where it's like people won't take any accountability for their stuff. And it's like, my videos get shadow banned because of the dark. My blah, blah, blah happens because of the dark. No, it's not because of the dark. There is something within yourself that you need to look at, that you need to heal, that needs to be acknowledged, okay? Another form of spiritual bypassing is refusing to do shadow work. Like, you need to know what's in your closet. You need to know what's in your refrigerator, what's in your cupboards, what's expired, what old belief systems and old emotions that are no longer serving you but still running program. All right? So our subconscious mind is like a computer hard drive. Every single thing that comes into the subconscious mind that you perceive, okay? Whether it is in a dream state, whether it is on social media, whether it is in your everyday life, your subconscious mind takes it as truth. It cannot differentiate between truth and lies. And so there is a ton of negative programming, negative belief systems, negative conditioning that we've all been subjected to in this life, whether we are awake or not. And a lot of that gets embedded. It's like embedded malware in the system. And so if you refuse to look at it, it's actually going to cause you more harm in the long run, because say, you know, you got your heart broken, you were cheated on, you were lied to, and you've got this program inside of you saying like, I'm not worthy of love because of what this person did to me. But you refuse to look at that program and you just keep saying, I'm full of love and light, I'm full of love and light, but then you can't have sustainable relationships, or you keep attracting the same type of person. That's a huge sign that there's more work to be done. This process is the ever ascending staircase of ascension. You're never done. You get to a point, there's more work to be done. There's always more work to be done. You do it at a higher vibration. And once you get to higher vibrations, there's less variance, meaning there's less extremes. Things come into more balance, things come into more harmony. But if you, again, are dealing with any sort of situation where you refuse to look at the shadow, or you refuse to look at the recurring pattern, and you just think that I can just say love and light, or I can just pray and everything's going to be okay, you've got to empower yourself as well. We are co-creators with the divine, and so you have significant power in your life. But if you choose not to do anything for yourself, like to empower yourself or to change things and just say, okay, well, I guess this is God's plan, that I'm meant to be alone all my life. That's not true. That's not true. And that's a huge spiritual bypass. So those are some of the biggest signs of spiritual bypassing, okay? How do you know you are not bypassing, and how to counterbalance any spiritual bypass that you may do? Number one, take accountability for everything. You are a conscious creator. This is your life. Everything that has happened to you is part of your divine plan, whether it was chosen at a conscious level, a subconscious level, a soul level, whether you manifested it from fear, manifested it from love. Everything we do, every thought we think, every emotion we feel is always creating. We're always creating. Okay, and so accountability is not about blaming yourself. It's not about judging yourself, but it is about saying, I have the power to make the changes to shift out of anything that is undesirable for me. I have no control over what anybody else does, right? But I do have control and power as to my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions, and I'm going to take control back. That is taking accountability for your life. And when you are accountable, you are not bypassing, because you're facing it and you're owning your stuff, right? Another way to show that you're not bypassing is that you are open and vulnerable. You allow your feelings to flow. You can lovingly say to people, hey, I don't agree with this, or I don't like how you're treating me right now. You can stand up for yourself. You can speak up for yourself. And again, you're not afraid of showing people your truth. When you can stand in your authentic truth and be vulnerable, that's power. It is huge. It is huge power. And it's also a huge sign that like you are not bypassing, all right? You're not using your spirituality to bypass anything in your life. This goes into the next one, which is honesty. Again, sometimes we can't specifically say what we want to say to people, but there's still ways of being honest and truthful without being fake, without being inauthentic. And so when you can be honest first to yourself, it's always about self-honesty first, and then to others, that's a huge sign that you are not bypassing anything. You're not using your spirituality to bypass, and you're just really coming into your authentic truth, your power, and that's a beautiful thing. Why this is important is because twofold. Number one, as more people start to wake up, and as we start to continue to expand and grow in consciousness, it's almost like we're given more spiritual responsibility. Like we're more responsible. You know, I've said this before, but it's like we're becoming spiritual adults. And so in the sense of, you really have to be accountable, and if you're bypassing, you're gonna see it. You're gonna start manifesting things right away in your environment that show you that something needs to be dealt with. Sometimes we manifest crisis in towers just for God to get our attention to like deal with this situation now, okay? And so that is something that's really, really important right now, is because as we're shifting, especially like after March, like it's just, the energy is game changing. After March, when Pluto will begin its shift into Aquarius, and then you have Saturn in Pisces, like you've got to be on your spiritual game 100%, because this world is like I don't even know what to say. There's no words. There's no words for the 3D right now and what's gonna occur. So it is really, really important for you to be tapped in and tuned into yourself, your highest truth, your guides, your guidance, your intuition. It is your God protection system, your energy PS. It is going to be what helps you to flow through the expanding chaos that we are moving into. I'm not saying that to bring any fear, but we are in the times of change, and change is here, right? Another reason why it's important to not spiritual bypass is because when you are not bypassing, you're actually, again, more in your power, which means that the flow of manifestation will be easier and better for you. You'll make better, more loving, more stable, more beautiful connections with others. And you'll naturally sort of be more protected from all the lower energies because you're in that higher vibration of truth and authenticity for yourself. All right. So those are just a couple of the things I wanted to bring through in this video. There's so much more, but let's just stop at around 30 minutes and call it a day. But I hope everyone is doing well. If you have any suggestions or video ideas on spiritual talks I should talk about, leave them in the comments. This is not a time to blame yourself, to judge your journey. We all have to learn and grow. And like I said, this is one thing that I've really had to work hard to overcome on my own path. I really understand it. I really truly understand what it is to spiritual bypass, right? Because it's been something that I've had to work through as well. So just love yourself. Compassion starts with self. Be compassionate to yourself, because you, as much as anybody else in the universe, deserves your love and affection. There's no wrong way. It's all learning and growing. It's just when you know better, you can do better. And it's time for all of us to know better so that we can all do better and step up and really be the light that we need to be, that this world needs to be, and to kind of lift us all up. So that's what this purpose is for this video and all the videos that I do. I'm sending all my love and light to everybody. But it's also okay to say, if you're not having a great day, to acknowledge that you're not having a great day either, right? It's okay to acknowledge what you are truly feeling in the moment, because that is authentic, that is truth. You don't want to wallow in it. You want to have a positive viewpoint and a positive perspective, but not to a point where you're in denial about things in your life, things that you have the power to change, right? So I'm sending all my love, and I hope everybody has a beautiful day. Take care.